Welcome to the fantasy draft room. This is a 2024 Dynasty rookie mock of the 7 round Shane P Hallam NFL draft, I guess, mock. So we do have that full link down below. We're going to pull up the board for you real quick here so you can check out just a few of the landing spots here, see if there's anything that really stands out to you. But again, the link for this full mock will be down below, and we will try to pull this up throughout. So, Cody, we're going to have you go first this time. With this mock in mind, who are you taking 101?
I think there's only a couple ways that you could go here, and that's going to be two main ones. It's either going to be Caleb Williams and the Chicago Bears. If you see any other mock saying differently, I don't know what they're doing at this point. Thankfully, we got that one in the Shane P Hallam mock. Thank you for letting us use this one, promoting this stuff. But the other way that you could go is leaning back into the wide receiver, Marvin Harrison going to the Arizona Cardinals as well. You're going to see a lot of this chalk without trades in here. Now, it could look a little bit different on draft day. It will look a little different on draft day, but the process is the process, and the process has value. So you can try to determine where you would put these guys once they go to the places they do. I'm going to stick with my guns, and I'm going to keep going back into the quarterback over the wide receiver position, though. And that's why I'm going to go Caleb Williams to Chicago here at the 101.
Yeah, love that pick there. I'm looking at Marvin Harrison here in the number 2 slot. There's another guy I'm also looking at here. And I feel like just for sake of this landing spot, you think about Cliff Kingsbury, you think about what he did with Kyler Murray, another slight framed, well, a little bit heavier, but slight framed short quarterback. Jaden Daniels, not necessarily as small, but definitely a little more frail. I am going to take him going to the Washington Commanders. Has some decent weapons in that offense, and I think he can do enough there to really have some fun.
We did just see his pro day come out yesterday, and he did actually come out at 210 pounds. So it was nice to see that frame hold up a little bit more. But a lot of people will probably be surprised that you're not leaning into the guy that I'm going to go here, leaving a chalk at the top, and that's going to be Marvin Harrison. Some people's 101, and I would not blame you at all if you wanted to go into the scarcity of the wide receiver elite position and think that Marvin Harrison could hit that. I'm just going to go into a little bit of the more high variance quarterback market right now, what I believe and what you potentially believed here with that 102 pick. But Marvin Harrison for me has to be the 103.
Yeah, Marvin Harrison, and I mean, this is the landing spot I've been asking for literally over a year. And so I was saying Marvin Harrison to the Arizona Cardinals would absolutely love to see it. So, yeah, I think honestly, I couldn't let Marv slide any lower than that. Drake May going to New England, I think just has to be the 4 for sake of it's really been this top 4 the entire time. I mean, you can look at Malik Neighbors going to the New York Giants, but I'm going to take Drake May here just because he is a very talented quarterback. I just hate kind of what we've seen from New England Patriots in recent years.
Obviously, it is going to weigh a little bit on Dynasty Manager's mind, but I would go with the Drake May pick as well. I still like him just as much as the Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels. I don't really have a separation of the tier between all three of them. So I'd be happy to be here at the 104, 105 pick and pick myself up with Drake May, even if it is to the New England Patriots, as we see here in this mock. There's still 2 more quarterbacks that go off in the first round here. J.J. McCarthy to the Denver Broncos at 12, Bo Nix to the Vikings at 23 from the traded pick from Houston. But I'm not going to go that way yet. The J.J. McCarthy one does interest me being in the top 12 yet, but that Denver situation, a lot of people are not going to like that pick. There's already some questions about J.J. McCarthy. I'm going to lean back into the wide receiver position. I'm going to go with Malik Neighbors going to the New York Giants.
Yeah, I think you have to at this point. I mean, this is the locked in top 5. And then when you look at the other wide receiver landing spots, you mentioned the quarterback situations here. You know, we have wide receivers of Rome Odunze going to the New York Jets at the 110. I always keep fantasy purposes 110. The 10th pick overall in the NFL draft. And this is after the Mike Williams signing. So this mock was after the Mike Williams signing. So you have Williams, you have yourself Garrett Wilson, and now you have Rome Odunze. So he's definitely pushing himself outside that top 5 situationally. We've seen something similar to this with JSN, and it's not saying that Rome Odunze won't find his way on the field, but it's just opportunities may or may not be there. So I look at him, I look at Brock Bowers going to the Chargers, and I think this might actually be a situation where I'm just going to lean in taking Brock Bowers at my 106 for this situation, going to the LA Chargers at pick 5 overall.
I mean, if he gets that type of draft capital
Yeah,
with Jim Harbaugh and what he would be able to use with Brock Bowers in that offense that he's trying to reshape, rebuild, the departure of both Keenan Allen and Mike Williams in this offense, Josh Palmer might be the best wide receiver currently on this
truly.
roster. And it would definitely be Brock Bowers if this were to happen. I don't think this happens, but if it were to play out, it would put fantasy managers into an absolute frenzy of where they would have to be placing Brock Bowers to be one of he would be the highest drafted tight end ever, right? Because it was Kyle Pitts at 8 was the highest drafted tight end.
Was Kyle Pitts I thought Kyle Pitts was at 5 or 4.
They've drafted 8 3 years in a row, so I think it was their first year that they drafted at 8 that they took him there. But I might be wrong. Maybe it was up at like 3 whenever they took him. I don't know. But it would be insane to see Brock Bowers all the way up here at 5. But I do not mind it, especially for fantasy purposes. It will leave me with the option here to go back either into that wide receiver realm or to the quarterback realm. I think those are the only 2 places you can go at this point.
And it was 4th overall, just as a heads up. Did pull
4th
up.
up. Okay,
He was
4th overall. Okay, well, he
Still,
won't break it. Won't break it.
Close enough.
Still a drastic amount of capital put into a tight end position. 100%. Man, I don't like that New York Jets spot.
I know.
And you don't know long term, because like you're really potentially in a 1-year window with Aaron Rodgers. But I'm gonna lean into the talent. I don't like doing this. I'm gonna lean into the talent though. I'm gonna take Rome. I'm gonna let you have your pick of either another wide receiver or quarterback here, more than likely. But I think he's a different tier break of wide receiver. Maybe I should have leaned into the quarterback. I don't know. What do you think here? Does that give you the 108?
I'm pulling up the board so everyone can kind of check this out as well, because this is really where there's a break, right? Like you have JJ McCarthy, Bo Nix is the other first round quarterbacks. Romo Dunze, talent wise, has always been the break there. But now you also look at Brian Thomas being a first round wide receiver going to the Pittsburgh Steelers, where they do need a wide receiver. You have X Worthy going to the Dallas Cowboys, which is going to be an interesting spot just because there's really not a whole lot around CeeDee Lamb. So that's a very interesting spot. You do have A.D. Mitchell going to the Bills, all in the first round. And then you have early second Lad McConkey going to the Carolina Panthers. No other tight ends I'm really interested in here. And in all honesty, I think I'm going to lean back in. I, as a Broncos fan, I have a tough time taking that situation. I feel like it's going to ruin the quarterback kind of situation. So I am actually going to go with my favorite landing spot, and that's going to be X Worthy going to the Cowboys. I love the talent of Xavier Worthy. I've always been very high on Xavier Worthy. It's just, is he going to get the capital? Is he going to go to a situation that suits him? And this would be a situation that absolutely suits him, being in that kind of passing attack with Dak Prescott.
Okay. Yeah. I did not think you were going to go there. Xavier Worthy all the way up at the number 4 wide receiver off the board. Not where I would go on the wide receiver
bold
board
strategy
or the quarterback board. I'm going to lean into your quarterback going to the Denver Broncos. I don't think Sean Payton is absolutely he might be senile, but I don't think he's washed and senile right now. I think it's going to be a little bit of a rebuild. It is going to be a little bit tougher to build up the quarterback position with that team and what's surrounding it. They're going to go down and probably tear this thing down, but maybe you roll out Jarrett Stidham for a year before you let JJ McCarthy take over. It wouldn't be great, I guess, for the JJ McCarthy value, at least in year 1, but it would be an insulated asset, and it's still super flex that we're going to be playing here. I'll take the quarterback and take the upside swing that JJ McCarthy can survive the Denver Broncos situation.
Oh man, there's a pick that I want to make right here that I just don't know that people are going to be okay with, and I don't want you to take it from me, but I'm gonna let it go and see if you let it slide. But I'm gonna take Brian Thomas going to the Pittsburgh Steelers here. He's been historically the wide receiver 4 throughout this process, and when you go to a situation like Pittsburgh, yes, there's some questions around the quarterback position, but he did get first round capital. They do have a hole on that roster where they need another good wide receiver, so he can easily step in to be the number 2, maybe the number 1, but the number 2 on that offense for sure pretty quickly.
I do really like the Brian Thomas. He would have been the wide receiver that I still would have taken it for. I don't think the situation is bad enough just playing alongside of George Pickens within the Steelers offense. You'll have the old school narrative that the Steelers really draft and develop wide receiver bump with Brian Thomas as well, which is just a complete fallacy at this point anymore. And I don't know why people still say it. But it will give him a little bit of bump, at least within the community. So I still would have been Brian Thomas. He would have been my pick here. But I'm actually going to go back into the quarterback position again. You're going to give me the quarterback Bo Nix, who's, I mean, whether the people like it or not, he's a first round pick, and he's pairing up with the Vikings system with Justin Jefferson as well. This has got to be a pick. And honestly, I could see more people potentially even picking him over JJ McCarthy just because the landing spot is so good there with Kevin O'Connell and Justin Jefferson. Actually, I might have switched back that 109 pick just because people are going to hate the Denver Broncos position so much. I could easily see the fact where you get Bo Nix actually as your fourth quarterback off the board if it were to play out this way.
This is exactly what I was thinking, and this is this is what I didn't want you to take. Bo Nix was going to be my pick there. It's one of those situations where even if Bo Nix isn't the starter at the beginning of the year, the moment that he does get the opportunity to start, because he will at some point this season, he will get the chance to start. His value is going to be absolutely skyrocketed because of the weapons around him and because of the offense that he's tied to. So Bo Nix was going to be my pick there at the 110. I was thinking you'd let him slide because hated Bo Nix throughout the entire process. So the fact that you said his name was probably painful for you. But that really wraps up quarterback. I mean, you do have Michael Penix going in the second round to the Las Vegas Raiders. So that will be one we look at later. And that's going to be, again, in the second round. You have Spencer Rattler in the fourth after that. So pretty much wraps that up there. Tight end wise, we still have the Indianapolis Colts taking JT Sanders to the Indianapolis Colts at pick 46 in the second round. Otherwise, it's back to the wide receiver well. And so now the remaining ones that we have in the first round is truly A.D. Mitchell going to Buffalo, which sounds great. And then you have the Panthers taking Ladd McConkey, Xavier Legette pairing up with Drake May going to the New England Patriots. So you have those types of things. And you also have one Troy Franklin going to the Detroit Lions, Keon Coleman going to the Kansas City Chiefs. Those are all second round picks, late second round picks. So I'm going to go back in here. I'm not a big believer in A.D. Mitchell, and so I'm just going to go right back to a guy that I do love, and that's going to be Ladd McConkey, who we just talked about off air. So I'm going to take Carolina Panthers, Ladd McConkey, and just hope and pray that he's going to have an opportunity in an improved offense.
You're going through all those names though, and while I do like Ladd McConkey as well, I also do like Adonai Mitchell, especially to the Buffalo Bills and what that situation could be. But you got to put some respect on the name of Trey Benson going to the Dallas Cowboys in the second round as well, and what people will do if that happens. Because people love themselves Trey Benson, number one running back overall. Isn't for me personally, but you do that with the community consensus that has Trey Benson up there, and you put him on the Dallas Cowboys in round two. I think that's got some serious contention for a lot of people to sneak into the back end of this first round. And he's legitimately on my mind right here as I'm trying to make this pick. I'm not going to go there though, because I do have Adonai Mitchell so high, and it's a perfect landing spot within the Buffalo Bills system to be that true X wide receiver for them outside, or X or Z wide receiver outside of Stephon Diggs, and kind of take over that role. It's certainly not going to be Mac Hollins if Xavier were, or if Adonai Mitchell is drafted in the first round. So I'll take him paired up with Josh Allen.
Yeah, and I had a feeling you would. That's why I wanted to leave him there. I was looking at Trey Benson. I've been higher on Trey Benson than you have. I know, or at least a little bit, just a little bit higher than you.
Yeah.
And so I do like the landing spot, though. People are going to lose their minds. There is no one else in Dallas. They are going to use whatever rookie they do take, especially if they spend a second round pick on him when it's just him, Rico Dowdle. Like, I guess that'll be some fun. So I am going to take Trey Benson here. And I do think that you can make justification for him going into the back of the first. Again, we took a shot on a couple of different players that maybe people don't, look at the situation in Carolina as high. Same thing with A.D. Mitchell. People don't believe as much in him, or the quarterbacks if they're just not, fond of Bo Nix. You could see them slipping out of the first round. And again, if you can get those types of players in this early second, do it. But yeah, I'm just going to stick with Trey Benson and put him as RB1 in this class if that's the case.
Probably would have been my next pick off the board, would have been Trey Benson as well, just because of that. I mean, everything around it. He's not my RB1, but if he landed there, he would be my RB1. So we got to adjust to what the position is, what the draft capital in the landing spot tell us, and that's definitely what it would be for Trey Benson. I'm going to go back to the wide receiver well once more, though, and the guy that I've been higher on than there's been, it seems a pretty divisive player within the fantasy circles, at least, and that's going to be Troy Franklin going to the Detroit Lions. Goodbye, Jameson Williams. You are now relegated to maybe the Khalif Raymond status, to Josh Reynolds status, somewhere around there. But it is going to be Troy Franklin and Amon-Ra running this wide receiver core, along with Sam Laporta. Troy Franklin here at the 203 to the Detroit Lions.
Yeah, I'm with you. There's a few wide receivers here that I keep looking at that I'm pretty fond of. I'm just going to pull up the board again. It's not great to cover us, but here you go, so that you can see with a little bit with where we're at. You're looking at pretty much all third round running backs. So we've only had one running back off the board. We are almost done with the second round of wide receivers. We do still have Xavier Legette, who did go pick 34 to the New England Patriots, and then you also have Keon Coleman still going to the Kansas City Chiefs at the back of the second. So two high picks there. I look at those, and then I look at a situation that I love in the running back room, and I think I'm just going to take the draft capital because it was early second. Xavier Legette. There's not a lot of wide receiver options in New England, and just take the gamble on the upside of what the talent is and the lack of options in that passing game, and maybe him and Drake May can build a nice rookie chemistry.
Oh, that one does hurt because I was hoping that I could talk about that position as well because I actually really like that landing spot paired up with a Drake May and a Xavier Legette there to potentially walk in and be the best wide receiver from day one. That if it wasn't Troy Franklin and my love for Troy Franklin, it easily would have been Xavier Legette that I was taking there at that pick. So we'll get you Xavier Legette. I won't hold it. I won't just be the guy who's not allowing you to take him. I
You took
guess
Bo Nix from me, so it's fair.
as I
Payback.
control the board, I mean, I do have the power here. I could just not give him to you. Here,
That's true. That's true.
you get Cade Stover instead, and
Love
then
it.
I get to pick like I get to pick Leggett, but we won't do that. We're not going to do that. We'll keep it nice here. We'll keep it civil. I'm gonna. It really dries out of wide receiver for me at this point, and I'm going to lean back into the running back market if we're going to go here. So then I get to decide between a guy that I absolutely love, my RB1 in terms of just prospect now, and that is Jalen Wright. But he's going to the Houston Texans where he would have to play alongside of Joe Mixon for at least a year with the contract that they gave him. Or you could go into the injury prone or the injury guy with going to the New York Giants of Jonathan Brooks. And I kind of want to go there if he lands there with that New York Giants system. You only have Devin Singletary, motor Singletary to go there. Yeah, I'm going to go that way. I'm going to go with Brooks, honestly. If this landing spots were to play out this way, I don't think the immediate touches are there for Jalen Wright to really thrive within this Houston Texans offense. And you've still got Damian Pierce there, who I know they will be trying to incorporate at least in some way as well. I'm going to go with Jonathan Brooks to be my RB2 if it were to play out this way.
I thought you were going to pull one over on me and take my RB2 in this class throughout the entire cycle because the landing spot of Blake Corum to the Las Vegas Raiders is just juicy. I personally love that spot. I'm going to take Blake Corum right here. I'm not even going to think about it. I thought you were going to pull all the tricks about Jalen Wright and then Brooks and be like, but we're taking Blake Corum. I'm taking Blake Corum here. It makes perfect sense. RB2 in the class. I think it's a good fit for him in the situation. They do still, have question marks about this offense and what it's going to look like. But if your primary competition's, Zamir White, I will take that bet.
It just feels like a lot of the same thing to me. Like you've got Zamir White, you've got whatever you believe of Alexander Madison as well, and then you put Blake Corum in there as well. You've just got like three thumpers that I don't
You
know.
and I have looked at Blake Corum so differently throughout this entire process, and it's so funny because one of us is going to be right. Are you just going to be another guy, or I don't think he's going to be some true number one top 5 fantasy performer, but I think he's going to be a solid NFL running back and like the true number one on a team. But we'll see. We'll see how that kind of pans out.
All
You see him
right.
catching passes at pro days. I'm sorry. Come
he's
on, man.
he
Pro
can
day
he can
passes.
catch passes. I'm not saying he definitely can't do that, but he's definitely the best pass catcher on that team as soon as he walks in. If he were to do that, but you've still got you're still splitting carries. I don't think he comes in and he's going to command a Josh Jacobs esque role whenever he walks into that situation. So
Fair.
I believe all 3 running backs would get touches there, and I'm going to go to where only 2 running backs would get touches, and I'm going to go back into my RB1 of the class, and that's going to be Jalen. I keep looking at that one though. I gotta go. I'm gonna go with the talent. I'm gonna go with what I think is actually RB1. I don't know. There's so many running backs here. Like I think we just go into a range of running backs. We're just gonna keep taking. I'm gonna go Jalen Wright to the Houston Texans. Going to my H town. But there's 2 other running backs on here that are also just right up the board with him as well.
I might. Here's where I struggle, and this is part of the way the situation lands, and also part of the way like draft capital, right? You look at with where we're at. I'm going to pull the board up here. We're looking at basically we have third round running backs are pretty much off the board. We have Braylon Allen to the Arizona Cardinals still left. You have Marshawn Lloyd to the LA Chargers. And then you have Audric Estime going to the Cincinnati Bengals, who I have liked throughout the process. Little 40 times scare. I don't know what to really see there. Then you have Shipley going to take over as CMC's backup in San Francisco. But you also still have a second round wide receiver going to a preem. I guess everyone has always had a primo landing spot with the Kansas City Chiefs and Keon Coleman. So it's like picking situation here. Like I want you to know, like if I was on the clock just because of my non-love of Keon Coleman, I'm pretty sure I'd be taking a running back here, but I'm going to take I'm gonna take Keon Coleman. I'm
Okay.
gonna take Keon Coleman. I'm
I
gonna do
probably
it.
would have had to do it too. We're both on the same page. It's always just a who takes him first whenever we're doing these drafts,
Yep.
right? But there's no way I don't think I could get past this point and not take Keon Coleman either, just because it is the Chiefs. Man, it feels like they've had a hard time drafting him outside of Rashee Rice, and I think we would go back to the train of having a hard time drafting him if we were to get Keon
Yeah.
Coleman there. But you got to respect that he's paired to the arm of Patrick Mahomes, and people do like Keon Coleman. It's a select few, a little bit smaller of a group that likes Keon Coleman, much less than the overwhelming people who don't like him. It seems like, but there are the ones out there in the Kansas City Chiefs. You can't ignore it. I'm gonna go completely different position here, though. I don't. We haven't really gone back to it for a little bit, but putting JT Sanders on the Indianapolis Colts, where all that they do is run through just replacement level tight end, I actually think that he could be a little bit of a difference maker here and set himself apart from the likes of Jelani Woods, Kylan Granson, Bo Alley Cox. And if we are playing in a tight end premium, we normally do 1.75 for these. At the back of the second, I think you got to take an upside shot on landing a potentially difference making tight end in JT Sanders.
There's a few players I'm actually interested in. Like they're complete dart throws or opportunities of like, can you get increased value so I can flip you for a profit? Or, again, maybe you get the chance to come right in and make a day one impact. And so there's a few names here I really want to pick. I'm going to do it for the sake of the Superflex. I'm not going to lean into my own personal beliefs and biases. I am going to take Michael Penix here, going pick 44 to the I keep wanting to say LA Raiders, but it's the Las Vegas Raiders. And again, they don't really have a whole lot in front of them with just O'Connell and then Minshew for a year. This team's probably going to be bad. It's the AFC West. They're probably not going to be all that good. Penix will get a chance to start, and when he does, can you make a profit because he's throwing to Devontae Adams and Jacoby Myers? Maybe the team is, a decent situation, and they're just like, well, let's see what happens with Penix. The moment he's on the field, I feel like you're going to be able to get something for him if there's belief in his talent. So that's my reason here. Back at the second feels like a steal kind of fell.
Yeah, I was looking at him. It was probably between JT or Michael Penix for me as well.
Yeah.
I do like the upside shot of the quarterback. I just don't know what to make of that room. It feels like you put all three like equally talented. Not that Michael Penix is probably better than all of them that are currently there, but you have Minshew that you actually paid a decently sized contract to. You have Aiden O'Connell, who the team likes from last year, and now you throw in another rookie. It just feels like a mess every time I see a quarterback mock to the Raiders. It just doesn't feel right every single time. I truly believe that they just roll through with those two and they take a guy maybe fifth, sixth, seventh round if they actually want another quarterback. It does not make sense to me for this team right now to go out and get another quarterback. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they do take Michael Penix, and if they do, easily could see him here at the back of the second round. I'm going to go back in. I'm going to go with the Charger. I just don't know which Charger. And we're going to go with the position. We're going to lean into the positional advantage, and we're going to go with Roman Wilson. We're going to take both of the Chargers that have been taken in this mock, both Brock Bowers in the first round and Roman Wilson at the back of the second round at the 211. Again, Josh Palmer is potentially your best wide receiver on this team. Give me the guy who was a Michigan man with Jim Harbaugh, and he can be a very good, probably the best wide receiver from day one on this team, potentially.
I mean, I do like Roman Wilson. I like the landing spot. I do think there's a lot of questions about this offense as a whole. But when your biggest competition is Gus Edwards, I am absolutely taking Marshawn Lloyd to the LA Chargers. I just could not. I wanted to take him 2 picks ago with Penix. It's like if they do run the ball like everyone thinks that they're just going to go out and hammer it, Marshawn Lloyd's absolutely going to have a role. He's going to be the explosive player in this offense because that's not Gus Edwards. Gus Edwards can definitely be an innings eater. I think he can score, be a goal line guy, but I do think Marshawn Lloyd would take a good chunk of that work and be fantasy relevant year one.
You're probably right there. And truthfully, probably should have taken Marshawn Lloyd there at the 211 in front of you. But playing the wide receiver game in the market that it currently is, if he became a one for Justin Herbert, I think he has more upside value in that role. But again, you also put Brock Bowers on this team too, though. So you're going to start eating into each other's targets. But that is a very heavy offensive draft for a Jim Harbaugh team with skill position players coming in the first 3 rounds of a Jim Harbaugh experience. Doesn't seem like it would happen to me, but it'd be pretty fun for fantasy if it did.
Yeah, if you look at like later on the board here, I'm going to sort of pull this up here since we finished 2 rounds. When you look in the 5th round, you actually have the Chargers also taking a Michigan wide receiver. So they're just piling on all the offensive players that they possibly can, which does feel a little weird for this type of Harbaugh run team. But hey, they got to start building somewhere. Maybe they start building around Justin Herbert, and that's the mindset coming into year one. So we shall see. That's how Shane P Hallam sees it. So now that we're into the 3rd round here, do you want to dive into a 3rd round, or you want to call it at 2? Because there are some names here of interest. I don't know if we can get 3 full rounds where it's like, oh, I'm really interested in this. But any other spots stick out, or what do you want to do?
You want to hammer one out? I'm good. I'm
Yeah,
good with just like going speed run here through the 3rd round. Let's go. We're gonna go back into the running back, and we're gonna go with Braylon Allen to the Arizona Cardinals at 3-1.
Yeah, I looked at him too. Another great landing spot, and I feel like this is really where we're going to start seeing running backs come off the board, people taking shots on him, and I'm going to take my shot on Audric Estime going to the Cincinnati Bengals. Not a lot of competition there. A lot of guys with similar, skills. I won't say skill sets, but similar talent levels where it's like just Zach Moss and Chase Brown. So give me some Estime.
Do like that one a lot as well. I'm going to go back over to the. I'm going to go with the Colts. I'm going to go with the Colts deep threat. I'm going to go with Tez Walker here.
Tez Walker. Okay. Yeah, I don't mind that one at all. There's not a lot of, wide receivers that really stand out. I'm just going to go back to running back one more time here, and we're just going to take Will Shipley I know he's not going to have a role this year, but if you're the backup for the 49ers and you have a similar skill set to McCaffrey, everyone talked about you being McCaffrey, maybe you could be McCaffrey's replacement. So Will Shipley.
And I'm going to go back into my unfortunate running back that's been slipping down the board. And we got to get Bucky Irving off the board here. Can't let this happen any further. Come on, Bucky. Don't fall this far down for me. It'd be awful.
Yeah, I think looking at the rest of these picks here, I'm going to lean back to wide receiver. 3rd round pick, Ricky Pearsall has had some hype, some ups, some downs. But going to the Cincinnati Bengals, if they do in fact trade T. Higgins, Pearsall could be a role player.
Welcome in another Charlie Jones or the Andre Ishavas, who, but we're going to go with Pearsall though.
All right. So
whenever he's there, I'm going to go back over to the wide receiver realm as well. And I'll go lean into the Jalen Polk alongside of Marvin Harrison Jr. That's not Spencer Rattler. Nope.
Can't take it back now. Yeah, I do like that pick there. Looking here, we're looking at 4th round wide receivers. Tight end, I don't really care about. Quarterback, don't care about. I'm just going to go with. I'm gonna go with Jacob Cowing at the Falcons, a nice little slot receiver for Kirk Cousins.
Okay. Do like that one. A lot. I'm going to go back to the running back, though, and I actually really liked Ray Davis as a true just innings eater, and I think he would actually complement pretty damn well alongside of a James Cook to really just be a hammer back that they have been missing in Buffalo this entire time. So I'm going to go with Ray Davis after I get you your Malachi Corley, correct?
Not Corley.
Cowing.
Yeah. Yep. So then you're taking Rice there.
Davis.
Yeah. Or Davis, excuse me, Ray Rice. A long time ago. If you guys played football, for fantasy football, you might know some some Ray Rice. Anyways, um, there's not a lot of running backs that I really look at here that interest me as far as like it's just darts at this point. Just gonna go back to the wide receiver and maybe take myself. I'm gonna go again depth guy year out. Malik Washington going to the Chicago Bears. Keenan may be gone after a year. Maybe he has a role. Yuck. This is where I mean we're these are late third round players where you got to like truly start envisioning. Hey, maybe is there a Puka in here? Can I find a Puka? No.
You with Malik Washington, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, we'll put that one on the board. Man, there's a part of me that actually really likes the Johnny Wilson in New England one. After they just let go of Mike Gesicki, it kind of feels like Johnny Wilson could potentially step right into that, but I can't do it because we do have to go back to the running back for me to finish this one out. Got to go with Dylan Lobb to KC. There's nothing else in KC right now from the running back position. Jerick McKinnon's not there anymore. The best running back in terms of our lads actually is currently LaMichael Pirine is actually the RB2 on the depth chart of the Kansas City Chiefs, followed up by Deneric Prince, last year's UDFA wonder that everybody was thinking would get some touches and never did. So Dylan Laub to be the RB2 for the Kansas City Chiefs potentially.
Yeah, that one I definitely overlooked. Like that pick, that one probably should go a little bit higher, just given the landing spot and the lack of depth there is at that position on that team. We all know how Pacheco likes to play. So, really wrapping this up here, there's not really any tight ends. I looked at, maybe a Spencer Rattler. So to wrap up round 3, no real running back. So I'm going to take one more dart here at the wide receiver I do think you are right. Like, there's Malachi Corley, who was taken at the end of the third by the Jaguars, but I'm just going to go after Johnny Wilson. Johnny Wilson to the Patriots, just a cluster F of a wide receiver room in New England. Yeah, you add Leggett and Johnny Wilson, but who knows? Who knows?
The one that really caught my eye as I was looking down the board, and I think could be right up there with him. Last one that I want to mention here before we jump off would be Brennan Rice going to the San Francisco 49ers. There's the Ayuk news as well. You put Rice on a 49ers team as well. The narrative of everything around that would be pretty hyped for Brennan Rice going there.
Yeah, looking down the list, there's really no other. Like, there's no Puka landing spot where you can paint yourself a picture of him being a wide receiver 2 or 3, like immediately on the team. Javon Baker would be a name. I think. Did we take Baker at all? No, we didn't.
No, Javon Baker's not off.
Yeah, so him going to the Steelers would be a potential one, but with them taking, a first round wide receiver in this draft, I get why we passed on that as well, because they did take Brian Thomas, but that would be another name that could potentially, like if he's just the better player, puts himself on the field, gets an opportunity. But what does that offense look like with good old Arthur Smith? So I don't mind this round. I don't mind this 3 rounds. Maybe there's probably 2.5 rounds of interest.
Yeah, I think you get to the Will Shipley pick, and then it probably starts to fall off a little bit.
Yep. And then, I mean, a lot of these are solid landing spots too. So who knows? We see it every year where we get wide receivers buried. Running back goes where, again, Will Shipley went to the 49ers, but who knows? Maybe Trey Benson, Brooks, Corum, any of those guys go to San Francisco, and we're painting a whole different picture here. So
and maybe a Ben Snott to the Commanders as a 4th round tight end, because all that you have there is Zach Ertz right now.
Yeah,
I mean, that's put him in a Cliff Kingsbury offense, and that tight end is probably going to get peppered. He's definitely got to go in the 4th round somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely agree. There's a few other spots here, but I think this pretty much completes it. Anything else you want to touch on? Any other names? Let's see here, Jared Wiley. Nah. Yeah.
Nah, the only other thing that I'd say is watch out for these 5th, 6th, 7th round quarterbacks. If you are doing the any QB on a 2 deep strategy, you can definitely start to take some of these guys in the 4th round. One that I'd probably target here first has got to be Jordan Travis going to the Rams with Matthew Stafford potential injury. Stetson Bennett seems like he might be back with the team. The other one here that I actually do like as well, Sam Hartman to the Seahawks if you only have Geno Smith there. that could be a little bit of an interesting one as well.
They got Sam Howell now too.
They do have Sam Howell, so it's probably not the best way to go. I am thinking back about a month before Sam Howell went there, so probably not a Sam Hartman. And although you could draft him just for the hair if you wanted to.
Yeah, Michael Pratt, New Orleans. Like again, when you're looking at backup situations, yeah, I mean, again, any of these ones could be solid ones. Who knows? Joe Milton might be better than Justin Fields. So,
I did have some spice. Get out of here before they
had to get that dig in. Had to get that dig in. All right. Again, let us know in the comments down below what your thoughts are. Maybe there's some guys you would take higher or lower based on the picks that we have here. Make sure you do like this video. It helps us out a ton. Subscribe to the channel, and thank you so much for joining us here in the Fantasy Draft Room.